Hello there, people of the internet. I want to take a moment to talk about Radical Firearms AR-15s and what you need to know about them and what my thoughts are about them. This is not a Radical Firearms AR-15. I've made videos on them before. I've messed around with several of them, which we'll talk about, but I actually don't have one at this particular filming location. But this right here will serve just fine because I'm going to show you guys exactly what to look for. So, this is a Delton DTI-15. This is my Coyote gun. I have shoved just a tremendous amount of ammo through this, and she's holding up really strong. Definitely a lot better than some other platforms out there. But the Radical Firearms AR-15, that is an aluminum upper and lower AR, and it's pretty generic and basic. Like, it's your run-of-the-mill AR. It costs around 400 bucks. There's no bells and whistles for it. They tend to have a full-length M-LOK handguard that has a Picatinny rail on top, or you could go with like the M4 style of model. Those are essentially the same style of AR-15. They just have different handguards. I'm pretty sure that they have a mid-length gas system inside of those things, but I can't quite remember off the top of my head. Not like that really matters. That's still going to run whatever it is that you're wanting to run inside of your rifle. Alright, so there's a couple of things that I want to point out that I have noticed with my Radical Firearms ARs. I have messed with 3 of them. 2 of the 3 had catastrophic failures where the bolt broke in half while I was out shooting, or witnessed the bolt break in half while I was out shooting. And with those Radical Firearms AR-15 failures, they were at about that 5,000 round count. And most of the people who go out to buy a Radical Firearms AR-15 are not going to invest all the money necessary to shoot 5,000 rounds through their dirt cheap AR-15. Now, that being said, even if you do shoot the thing enough to break the bolt, which seems to happen at about that 5,000 round count, even if your bolt does break, then go out and spend the 40, 50, 60 bucks to get yourself a replacement bolt, and then you can get yourself your AR-15 back up and running. So, hats off to you if you decide to go that route. I do not quite know what the bolts are made of. I'm sure they're made of like the cheapo tool steel that most of your AR-15 bolts that are on the lower end, the lower cost, lower spectrum of the AR-15 are going to cost. Most of those cheaper ARs, they tend to have, like I said, that tool steel. They're not really a cast metal, but they're the same kind of metal that like wrenches and whatnot are going to be made of that you would get for like mechanic repair and whatnot. I mean, it's a good steel. It's not overly expensive to get your hands on, but it's just not going to be very good for longevity purposes, especially considering that we are shooting a cartridge that burns at, I don't know, I think it's like 62,000 PSI or something like that. It's a lot of pressure repeatedly happening on that bolt carrier group. So you just, it wears out. Just like all the other parts on a gun, they're going to wear out. That's just something that happens over time. Now, as I open this AR up, I have a few other things to show you. The bolt and the bolt carrier group, the extractor, all the springs and whatnot, these are just wearable items. And if you get yourself a really good, solid, sturdy one, it will wear less quickly than some of your cheaper ones, like on the Radical AR Firearms. Those right there are just cheaply made bolt carrier groups. That's how they keep their price down. And they're made out of fairly cheap material, not to say it's not good material, but fairly cheap material in comparison to some higher end stuff, and so as a result, it's just going to wear out quicker, and you get your catastrophic failure with your Radical Firearms bolt. So, another big thing that I saw with all 3 of the Radical Firearms AR-15s that I was playing with. If we look at our gas key right here on the rifle, that gas key has a certain way that it's staked in, and it's got to be a proper torque and depth and spec, etc., etc. And for the Radical Firearms ARs, whenever they have their gas key on their bolt carrier groups, those gas keys are not always to the spec that they need to be. And I'm going to show you right now how you can test that. So with your Radical Firearms AR-15, if you happen to have one while you're watching this video, go out and shoot a magazine of your ammunition. If you're firing like full-fledged 5.56 that is at the higher pressures than the 223, then you're probably not going to notice this. But if you shoot a little bit less pressured 223 ammunition, then you're going to notice that your bolt carrier group, whenever it locks open on an empty mag, is going to sit right about here. You can actually pull it back farther to properly lock it into the mag catch. What that means is that the gun is actually slightly undergassed because that gas key is not properly staked, at least not quite where it needs to be. It's adequate enough to be able to run, and run quite effectively and quite reliably. A lot of people will tell me that they run their guns without hiccups. But you can see that that bolt carrier group is not going back far enough to be able to completely lock into the magazine catch of that rifle. So next time you're out shooting your Radical Firearms AR-15, whenever you get to the end of your magazine and your bolt locks back, see if you can pull it back more, and you'll get a second little click as that bolt carrier group goes back to fully engage the bolt hold open. And that right there just means that your firearm is undergassed. If you're having reliability issues with your Radical Firearms AR-15, that gas key is like 90% likely going to be the cause of those issues. So you could either readjust the gas key to get it properly staked and properly torqued down and set to where it needs to be, or you could just go out and get yourself another bolt carrier group and throw it in, which I would recommend doing anyway, because the bolt and bolt carrier group inside of the Radical Firearms AR-15 just has that failure point at the 5,000 round mark. That just seems to be where they break. I've seen them break on multiple occasions right at that 5,000 round mark. So that's my 2 cents on the Radical Firearms AR-15. The barrels seem to hold up extremely well. They don't really have very good accuracy out of the box, probably about 4 MOA, which is definitely adequate enough for a home defense AR-15, especially if you're not getting one for precision shooting. But once you hit that 5,000 round mark, the lack of accuracy is already pretty apparent. Like the lack of accuracy that you're going to lose from a completely shot out barrel with that Radical Firearms AR-15, considering it's already a 4 MOA gun, you're just not going to notice much of a difference. Now, you might have a really nice shooting Radical Firearms AR, but every single one that I got my hands on was a 4 MOA rifle, and that's just what it was. And after that 5,000 round mark, it was still pie plate accuracy at 100 yards, so really not much of a difference as far as I'm concerned, at least not for any practical purposes. If you do manage to go out and run 5,000 rounds through your Radical Firearms AR-15, accuracy should not be your worry. Your worry should definitely be your bolt snapping inside of your bolt carrier group eventually, which has happened on 2 of the 3 that I have tested. The third one is actually not quite at that 5,000 round mark, so I'm still working on getting it there. Ammunition is just incredibly expensive nowadays. Shooting 5,000 rounds through a Radical Firearms AR-15, like the amount of money you spend doing that, you could go out and buy 5 other AR-15s. It's astronomical, the amount of money that you spend on ammunition doing tests like this. One of the tests was actually a buddy of mine. He shot about 5,000 rounds through his Radical Firearms AR-15, and I was present whenever his bolt carrier group actually broke. So that one, I will acknowledge, was not a test done by me, but I was around whenever it happened, so I saw it with my own eyes. So my 2 cents on the Radical Firearms AR-15, if you should get one, they're fantastic firearms for the amount of money that you spend, and although they're not going to be overly accurate firearms, you're not going to get sub-MOA groups from them most likely, most people aren't really going to care about that. Like, a fist-sized group at 100 yards is still better accuracy than most people can manage to pull off anyway. So that being said, it's a metal lower and upper. You got yourself your M-LOK rails on the thing, Picatinny rail on top, mount whatever optics or sights or whatever it is that you want on it. Depending on the model it is that you get, you can swap out whatever muzzle brake or flash hider or whatever it is that you want on it. Just make sure that that bolt carrier group, if you start getting up there into high round counts, swap that thing out. You can go out and get yourself a cheapo bolt carrier group on the market for like $50 to $80, depending on what it is that you're looking for, or you could spend more money and get yourself something that is going to last. As far as the body of the AR-15 of the Radical Firearms, I've had 0 issues with it. Like 100% 0 issues. It's just the bolt and bolt carrier group that I've had issues with inside of this rifle. Well, not this rifle, but the Radical Firearms AR-15 rifle. Alright, that's my 2 cents on it. I wanted to go ahead and bring this up because I've got some experience with the rifles and I wanted to tell you guys about it. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.